The astrology of this week is asking us all to get up off of that thing and boss up and really take ownership for your life. Let's go ahead and get into it. For those of you who don't know me, hello, I'm the Astro Mama. I bring the cosmos down to earth to ground deep feelers, creatives, and mystics. I think as a deep feeler, creative, and mystic myself, people tend to underestimate us. I'm tired of the narrative. If you're sensitive, if you're vulnerable, if you're emotional, or if your brain just doesn't work in like the neurotypical framework that our society promotes, I hate that narrative that means that you're dumb or you're flawed or you're broken or you're not worth people's time or energy. I just want to empower people who feel deeply the world and who know in your hearts that like you have something that you can create. You might not know what it is. You might already know what it is, and that's okay. Who you are is not flawed or broken. Your sensitivity is not a curse. It is a gift. However, what can happen is for those of us who are so sensitive, we can feel the shifts of the cosmos tenfold compared to our peers who are maybe less sensitive. So what I've been doing since 2018 is utilizing astrology myself and with my clients to feel more grounded, to have more of a game plan of how we want to navigate that sensitive energy that we're feeling so that we can swim with the cosmic current instead of against it. This year, I started doing this in a forecast format because I want to serve as many people as I can in the way that astrology is meant to be delivered, which is person to person, whether that be online or in real life. So go ahead, grab a journal or a pen, or maybe even your calendar or your planner, and let's jump into the astrology for this week. Mercury is retrograde right now. It's putting a little bit of a damper in our plans, but for the most part, the astrology of this week is asking us to get up off of that thing, to take ownership of your life, especially starting off at the beginning of the week. We have lots of sextiles, squares, conjunctions, as well as Jupiter stationing direct for the first time since November of 2025. In general, now that Saturn and Neptune are in Aries and not in Pisces, many of us are starting to be encouraged of not borrowing motivation or inspiration from other people, especially through the lens of social media, pop culture, maybe even Hollywood, whatever's been promoted to us as success or as inspirational, and instead sourcing that from yourself. Many people fall into the trap of looking at pictures of influencers or bloggers or even reading books from people who have built really successful businesses, and they start to think of, or how do I say this? They start to project onto themselves that person's vision of success. But the truth is, success looks different for every single person. For some of us, maybe it is having a yacht and having a mansion. For others, maybe it's having a small house but being able to afford a maid so you don't have to clean it all the time. That's what I'm manifesting right now. I need to stop cleaning as much as I am. For others, maybe it's having more time to spend with your children or your loved ones. Maybe it's location freedom, wanting to be able to work from wherever you are. Maybe it's wanting to have a job on your feet so that you can get your steps in or something. I don't know what it is for you, right? But abundance and success do not look the same for everyone. And I think now that Neptune is in Aries, we are really, really going to continue being presented with what is it that you want? What is your goal? What is your vision? In 2027, there's a big human design shift. It's called the Cross of the Sleeping Phoenix. On a previous podcast I used to have, it was called Wild Wisdom. I had this lovely human design expert named Jana, and she went over this in detail. I'll link it below if you're curious about some of the human design shifts that are happening in the next couple of years. This is very much backed up by astrology, which human design is derived from amongst some other traditions. We are already starting to feel this around an emphasis, the shift on individuality, on sovereignty, on personal expression. So let's get into what this means astrologically this week. Let's start with Monday. On Monday, March 9th, which is the day I'm recording this, Venus sextiles Pluto tonight around 11:51 p.m. Pacific time. This is a very passionate energy for single people. This is a good time to maybe go on a date or connect with your sneaky link or something in a more passionate, fiery way. And sometimes we need to get out of our comfort zone when it comes to dating if you're single and date the person that you wouldn't normally date, or start to think about establishing a new relationship, because sometimes what can happen is you can get kind of obsessed with your past partner or with an ex or with somebody that you used to be in a relationship with. Like, this is the kind of night where you might want to cyberstalk your ex or maybe even their mother on Facebook. Let's put your energy, those of you who are single, into meeting somebody new. And I have this theory. Let me know in the comments below if you're in a relationship, if this rang true for you, specifically a long-term commitment with your partner or partners. I have this theory that people's soulmates are not their usual type. I know for my husband and I, we are both not each other's usual type. I really have this theory. And I think it's because love is meant to expand us. It's meant to challenge us, and it's meant to help us grow. Well, I can share from personal experience. Before I was into astrology, I dated somebody for about 6 months that had the same sun and moon as me. And I didn't actually know much about astrology at the time, but we had both just downloaded CoStar and we added each other as friends. And then we never really looked into it. And I didn't look into it until after we broke up and I got into astrology, and I noticed I had this app on my phone. I opened it and I noticed we had the same sun and moon. Interesting. And one of the reasons why I decided to call off this connection is because I felt like it was just kind of like bland. It was almost like he was a cool person, obviously so am I, but there wasn't a lot of polarity. Like, there wasn't a lot of a spark or a fire. And I think it's because we were honestly too similar. So sometimes we look for partners who mirror our own qualities back to us. And we think if we just find somebody who's more like us, if I just find somebody who's more like myself, then they'll be the one. But I truly believe that our ideal partners are actually quite different than us, because that's how we grow. We don't grow from being in environments that are just like us and being around people who think the same way as us and feel the same way and dress the same way and look the same way. We grow through being in environments where we're the odd man out or we're different. And we have to learn how to anchor in our own personal identities and sovereignty, which is a big theme this week: identity, sovereignty, personhood, self. This is very like first house in astrology, the experiencer, the one, while being in environments with people who either A, there's a group mentality where they all think a certain way that's different than you, or B, they're all these different individuals that are different from each other and therefore different than you as well. For couples, this is a good night to reignite a spark, to have some spicy time. And if you're not feeling physical, this is a good night to utilize a game like a conversation cards, or maybe play truth or dare. One time, I was pregnant. We were living in Denver. There was a snowstorm outside, and we are not snowy people. And we were getting pretty bored. We were very bored. I was very pregnant, and we were eating Twizzlers in bed. And I asked my husband to play truth or dare. And I don't think that he realized that what my truth or dare game is a Sagittarius moon. Like, I crushed truth or dare. Okay, so he picked dare, and unfortunately for him, I dared him to run around our backyard naked. And it was so funny. I mean, just the two of us were dying laughing, just belly laughing. It was like just this fun memory of just being silly and goofy and like playful with each other. And so sometimes you can reignite a spark. It doesn't always have to be through tantra lovemaking or shibari or trying a new sex position. Sometimes it's just through like doing something that makes each other laugh, just having fun, just playing. And above all else, all healthy relationships, long-lasting ones, the foundation is friendship. And what do we love about our friends? Well, we love that we could just be silly and playful with them, and that there's not like an agenda of a way that you're supposed to act. You can just be, and then there's no like end goal of, I don't know, needing to be intimate, for example. Just be wary of any obsessions today with beauty, with finances, with love. Again, beware of the Facebook stalking. I'll share one other story. And if you're a deep feeler, creative, or mystic, you're gonna know what I mean. Sometimes our intuition is not right. Sometimes the psychic downloads we get are not correct. And that is a whole nother podcast episode for another time. I was dating my partner and I was going through a little bit of an obsession. And I saw this picture of him and this woman on his Instagram. And I thought my intuition was telling me that they were like lovers in a past life or something. We have this whole dramatic story about how he must still be in love with her and I'm never gonna be good enough as her. And I went down her Instagram and was cyber stalking her and was like thinking about all the reasons why she would be a better partner for him and da-da-da-da. I call him and I'm like, maybe I should just tell him this. And so I start telling him this and he interrupts me and goes, babe, that's my cousin. I'm not kidding you. I was mortified. I was like, your cousin? He was like, yes, that's literally my second cousin. Gosh, you gotta laugh. So sometimes that intuitive hit that you get or that obsession is not true. And the truth is intuition. So then I went down this rabbit hole of like, well, what the fuck is my intuition and what is actually me being crazy or fear? And through lots of therapy and coaching, I discovered that intuition is not fearful. It's not scary. When you get an intuitive message, it's in the quiet moments. It makes your nervous system feel at peace, even if it's something that you don't want to know about. Intuition comes to us in the quiet moments. And because intuition never tells you something that you don't already know, it's not this like fight or flight, anxiety provoking rumination spiral that it creates. If anything, it's more like clarity. So sometimes it's just fear. And sometimes we get these messages. You see this out into the world in social media, like psychics and intuitives who are just like instilling fear onto people, where it's like they need to actually go inward and process their own fear with whatever it is that they're picking up on. And I'm not saying they're incorrect. There probably is some correct timeline that they're tapping into. Maybe my partner and his cousin were lovers in a past life. I don't know. But you can feel into this thing of like, there's a seed within that tree that was planted that was true, but whatever it is that you water is what is created. So if there's let's say there's like a less than ideal transit going on with a malefic, you can take that and say, okay, this area of life might be a little difficult, or you can take it and run with it and go into this, let your ego and your fear just get into this imaginational loop that is disempowering. And we don't need any other entities or government agencies or TV shows or whatever that instill fear into us. So don't be that person for yourself. Do you know what I mean? So welcome to Tuesday, March 10th. This is my child's birthday. Happy birthday, baby. I love you so much. 2 years ago, I popped a baby out. It was an interesting story for another time. But I am an Astro Mama. After all, guys, you're going to hear some things about motherhood, maybe that you don't want to hear. Or maybe you do because you're a mom too and it makes you feel at home. Whatever the case is, we are all going to benefit today from Jupiter going direct. Round of applause for Jupiter, the planet of luck, expansion, and abundance, who was retrograde between November 11th, 2025 and today, March 10th, 2026. I'm just first. So for those of you who are Pisces ascendants and Sagittarius ascendants specifically, because Jupiter is your chart ruler, you could have been feeling this more intensely than others. And you could have just been feeling like since November 11th, every opportunity that you chased after or every result that you were trying to manifest wasn't working. It just wasn't opening. It's like you were going to these doors and you're just pulling the door open. And maybe you even hire a locksmith and they're trying to open the door, or you change the key and nothing is working to open this door. And that's because Jupiter retrograde sometimes blocks your blessings in the physical world to get you to go inward and expand internally instead. And again, we all were feeling this on some level, but especially Pisces placements and Sagittarius placements, you were probably feeling this a little bit more than others since that is your traditional ruling planet. Now, many of us could have just been feeling disoriented, confused. There were also issues with travel during this time. I remember a few airports being shut down or flights being delayed during this period, or TSA workers going on strike and them not getting paid. It's interesting because right now, my dad works for TSA, so I get the scoop. And I think because there was a government shutdown, they're also not getting paid on time right now, which is sad. Solidarity with the TSA workers. I think you guys should unionize. And I think that's noteworthy and interesting because the ninth house is ruled by Sagittarius, who governs higher education, travel, spirituality, and among other things. So that's kind of interesting that was going on at that time. Now, Jupiter was asking during its retrograde, like, be still, tune into your heart. Jupiter is an expansive planet and it's also a very spiritual planet. And Jupiter asks us to devote our lives, to devote our actions, our relationships, our purpose to something greater than ourselves, whatever that is for you spiritually, and to to lean on the divine, to lean on spirit, God, universe, higher self, a deity, a planet, a god, goddess, whatever, the moon and the sun and the stars and Mother Earth and the weather patterns even, or whatever that is for you, this greater knowing that we didn't come on this world to just be alone and do our own thing forever and never connect with anybody or the land or anything and just numb out and then die. Okay? This is really crucial. So your spiritual beliefs could have been tested at this time. And I really believe that this is maybe the specific message for somebody. I'm going to use God, not in a religious sense, but that's just how I relate to universe. God brings us to our knees to see how much we can trust him. Universe, goddess, fill in the blank. Brings us to moments where we're like, gosh, what is going on? How come all these doors keep closing? How come every time I make plans with my friends, my kid gets sick? So obviously that's like not as extreme, but how come I applied for this job that I really wanted and I didn't get it? Or I'm marketing my services every day and nobody's booking with me. Or I'm going on a million freaking first dates and I can't find somebody that I align with. Or I'm trying to get pregnant over and over and over again and I just can't get pregnant. Whatever that is for you. I'm going door to door with this book that I wrote and I can't find a publisher. I'm working out every day and I'm counting my calories and I can't lose. Whatever that is for you. Okay. We have to remember that God, universe, spirit, source is challenging you. Jupiter is a little different than Saturn. Saturn is challenging you to see, will you stick to it even when it gets hard? Jupiter is saying, will you have faith that every single thing happens for a reason in your life and that there is something greater for you on the other side of this? Whether that is literally to push through this and get to the other side or B, to try a new path. That's what Jupiter is asking. And Jupiter will bless you. The more you connect to that optimism, the Delulu is a Solulu vibe, and you marry that with the actions that you take. Be wary of excess. Some of us might have had experiences since November 11th of maybe spending too much money, eating too much, doing too many drugs. Like sometimes even our spiritual journey can be a form of escapism where what is sustainable is a good question to ask. You could have this goal and this vision, and my invitation is to be in it for the long haul. You will live hopefully a long, beautiful life with many different chapters. And the best way to achieve your goals long term is to be present with what your current capacity is and to be at peace with what your current capacity is, whether that's time-wise, resource-wise, or energy-wise. But we're still moving forward. Don't stop everything. Just figure out what is the next best thing I can do given the circumstances I have right now to get towards my goal. And doors will open up, and I truly believe you will be presented with the resources you need to take it and run with it when the time is right, because divine timing is a thing. The last thing I want to say about this is sometimes when you look at artists, entrepreneurs, even astrologers that have been doing their work for decades, and they didn't take off till they were in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they might have been ahead of their time. They were ahead of their time, and it could have been that the collective wasn't ready for their medicine at the beginning. Sometimes it takes decades for whatever it is to get off the ground that you're building. And that's not to scare you. I want to empower you to keep chiseling away at your purpose and understand that sometimes when things aren't taking off, it's not because of you. It could just be that the collective isn't ready quite yet for what you have to offer. But if you keep working on your craft and you keep chiseling things and you keep your spiritual faith and abundance energy within, over time they will be. And when they are ready, you'll be there, ready to help and be of service. I think we have this misbelief that, when we're young is in air quotes, I don't even know what that is, it's very subjective, that is somehow like our peak or the pinnacle of our success. But I saw another creator talk about how, I think she was like 60 or 70, and she said that in your 30s and 40s, you think that is like the peak of your life. But the truth is you're actually just starting. Your life is actually literally just starting then. And that's something that I've been taking with me and sitting with a lot lately. Moving on. So Jupiter energy asks us to be humble and hungry, to believe in a greater purpose and a greater path and a greater timeline, and also be grateful for the current one. And above all else, to truly put your faith into something greater than you, whatever that is for you. All right, welcome to Wednesday, March 11th. On another note, this is the day to get down to business. Capricorn energy to me is also the father, the traditional father figure. So for those of you who are dads, to connect to your children, maybe to create more systems or structures for them. And for all of us to just connect more to our yang energy or divine masculine energy in a healthy way. When we are in a distorted divine masculine or yang energy, we can be domineering, controlling. We can also get really burnt out or fatigued. And when we're in our distorted yin or distorted feminine energy, we can get really lazy. We can start to procrastinate. Sometimes we get jealous or insecure. So we want to use today to make some steps in the right direction of finding balance between doing and being, between giving and receiving. I've talked about this before in here, but I'm going to share it again, a little physics lesson. So imagine you have a spring between your fingers and your thumb. Once you start to push your index finger downward on the spring is compressing, it's shrinking in size, it's increasing in something called potential energy. But that potential energy doesn't go anywhere until you take that top finger off, the spring expands, and it turns into kinetic energy or momentum. Okay? So we have to learn, number one, if you've just been like this, your spring has just been hanging out in its fullest form, you got to start to put your index finger down towards your thumb and compress it a little bit, constrict it a little bit, so that it can grow and turn into momentum. And if you've been hanging out here, this constricted energy, and your spring has just been compressed, you got to take that top finger off and let it expand so it can turn into momentum. And the last thing I'll say about that, and especially prominent for those of us who are entrepreneurs, like people can feel our energy before we even enter any kind of environment. So if you're approaching your social media or your in-person networking or your client work or whatever it is you're doing with the energy of like desperation and obsession and almost like over-attachment, then you're actually pushing it further and further away versus like taking one action and then stepping back. So maybe you make a social media post and then you turn your phone off for the day. Or you go to a networking event, you talk to two people, you give them your business cards, and then that's it. You don't go and now try to find their email and their phone number and you're sending them all these messages and you're stressing people out because you're like, you have to buy my service right now. Like that's not the vibe. You want to kind of lean back a little bit and say, okay, I gave something, I offered something. Let me just pause and let me just see what comes back. Also, you could think about the analogy of a boomerang. The boomerang is going to come back eventually. Okay. We have a really busy week astrologically. Let's head into the end of the week. So welcome to Thursday, March 12th. Tonight, Mars is going to be making a conjunction to the North Node in Pisces. This exacts around 11:06 p.m. Pacific time. So you could find that your overall sense of purpose is accelerating at this time. This is a great day for career or, purpose is different for everybody, going back to the abundance conversation. So maybe your purpose feels like your purpose is being a parent. And this is a day where like everything goes well with your parenting and your kid is taking their naps on time and you feel on fire with this new bedtime routine you have or something. Maybe you feel like your purpose is to give back to the earth and you planted seeds at the beginning of the year and they're starting to sprout through and you have some harvest that you can do. You have some harvesting that you can do in your garden. We could just be presented tonight, especially, but today at least, with this reflection of a round of applause of your hard work and everything that you've put into whatever it is you're creating. Going back to the energy of this week, it's get up off of that thing. It's we're rocking, we're rolling, things are moving again. Mercury is retrograde. They're not going to move as fast as maybe you'd like, but they are moving. Momentum is picking back up. And this is a good day to acknowledge that and to celebrate that in a responsible way. This is also because this exacts at night. This is a really good night for those of you who are creatives, night owls. Like maybe you went out to dinner with some friends, for example, and you left with so many creative ideas and you went home and you're up all night working on an album or a song or a painting. This is the kind of night where something like that could be happening. You're just really feeling motivated and inspired and creative and on fire to harness your ideas and turn them into something maybe more physical. I think it would be interesting to see whoever's feeling more creative tonight and goes down that route. If you have a night chart, like comment below if you have a night chart. That means that you're born at night. I have this working theory that night charts tend to be more comfortable in the evening hours when it's dark out. I have a night chart too, and that's definitely very true for me. But let me know in the comments if that's you. I'd be super curious. Okay, welcome to Friday, March 13th. Today at 3:41 p.m. Pacific time, Venus in Aries makes a trine to Lilith in Sagittarius. I want to empower you today to know that sometimes sweetness like beauty, abundance, even financial boosts come from you being yourself. They come from you being at one with and connected to all parts of you. Not in a way where you avoid accountability and you think that you're the greatest thing on earth and you can never make mistakes, but in a way of noticing your shadows, noticing your sub-personalities, noticing the parts of you that you're maybe scared to share with others, and forgiving them for the mistakes they've made, learning lessons so that you can release the gifts of these parts of you which you avoid. It's easy, especially if you're a deep feeler, creative, and mystic, to think that you're the only person that feels the way that you do or is the way that you are. And you might go to group settings and feel like, gosh, nobody else is like me. Nobody sees me for who I am. I'm never going to have friends who are into chess. Let's say you're like chess, that are into chess like me, and that's so nerdy. And all my other friends are into CrossFit, and they're going to think that I'm so weird if I talk about chess. Well, the truth is, girlfriend, boyfriend, person, they can't actually even see that you're into chess if you don't tell them. Spoiler alert, it is your responsibility to show people who you really are and let them get to know that version of you. Because you could be surprised. You could go to your next CrossFit competition and you could bring your chessboard, and while you're waiting and people are warming up, you're practicing chess, and like 5 people could get so excited because they love chess. Their grandparents taught them chess. They were in chess club in high school and they can't wait. They're so excited that somebody who also does CrossFit is into chess, and they sit down and play with you. So now everybody's happy. When you are yourself, friends, and you walk into an environment and you're being you, that allows everybody else in the room to be themselves too. And that's all what we really want. Especially with a lot of those shifts I was talking about in the intro. Everybody is over the fake thing. Everybody's over it. And who knows, maybe you go into that room and everybody hates chess and they think that you're weird. Like, what's your fear? I guess is a good journaling prompt. What is my fear of what would happen if I show people who I really am? And how can I make that be okay? If it's safe physically, I think like obviously there's some nuances to that, but for the most part, let people see who you are. We are meant to connect with each other. And if people discard you because you like chess, I hate to say it, but let them. Because every relationship and connection that we have in our life is actually holding space and preventing us from another one. So it could be that your CrossFit gang is really, you're only meant to work out with them and that's it. But now that you've taken the pressure off yourself of being who you aren't, you can go out into the world, into other environments, and let's say join a chess club. Sometimes we remember who we are and what is important to us through being in environments where we actually can present that to people. Sometimes it's through the approval of those people, and sometimes it's through their rejection. You know how people say that people can only meet you like as much as they've met themselves or as deeply as they've met themselves? I think that's true. And then the next layer I'd add to that today is people can only meet you to the level that you've actually let them in and to the levels of vulnerability and authenticity you've provided them with. Welcome to Saturday, March 14th. I'm not going to lie, the astrology today is a little challenging. I feel like we might be presented with some news today that could be a little bit outrageous or scandalous. And, honestly, given all the crazy things that are happening in the world right now, I don't know if it's going to actually feel surprising to us or not. Like normally this would make one feel passionate, outrageous, inspired to act. But unfortunately, I feel like we're being bombarded with so much bad news right now that it's almost like we're becoming numb. And the reason why I'm saying this is because Mars in Pisces will be making a square to Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. this morning around 5:01 a.m. Pacific time. I was listening to an astrologer that I look up to a lot. Her name is Chani Nicholas, and I was listening to her forecast for last week. Something she shared is that humans were never meant to consume so much news and bad news alone at the frequency that we do it on our smartphones, for example. Yeah, one could argue numbing out and just avoiding news isn't necessarily beneficial, but in the past, like there would be group gatherings where news was presented. Or even people would just sit around a TV together and watch the news at night. And it was only at that time that it was on. It's really important for us to have people in our lives where we can process our emotions with about the crazy things that are going on so that we don't numb out and that we don't start accepting these horrific things that are happening in our world as normal. So today I empower you, and especially because the moon will be entering Aquarius later this morning, around 8:14 a.m. Pacific time, to share how you're feeling with those that you love, to be together, be in your local communities, be with, people who maybe for today, be with people who see more eye to eye as you, and you can really integrate and process the pain or the outrage that you're having about what's going on, and see how on a more personal level or within our local communities can we make a change. I really think that leaning into action is very medicinal, because otherwise sometimes we can get stuck into this belief that we are disempowered and that we don't have the ability to change things. And I think that can be really detrimental, especially to those of us who struggle with anxiety, depression, or mental health issues. So it's really important to have something where you know in your core what you're doing is creating a positive impact, at least on your immediate environment, if not your larger environment. Lastly, welcome to Sunday, March 15th. Tonight, Mercury in Pisces will be making a square to Lilith in Sagittarius at 10:37 p.m. Pacific time. So you could still be digesting whatever bad news came out on Saturday. Use your words constructively. This is the kind of day where you could be getting into a heated argument with someone and you could know exactly what you need to say to them to really trigger them. And then you say it and then that person just shuts down. I am not saying that you should never talk to people who disagree with you. I'm just saying, run it by your heart. Because when we use things like nonviolent communication, we say how I feel, we're vulnerable about, I feel this way because of this thing. It can start to change people's minds, but nobody changes their mind if they feel like they're being attacked. I remember saying something like this years ago around a political person that I definitely don't agree with. And I said, saying that you're better than people who vote for this person, though, is not going to help. And my cousin was like, well, me and my, girlfriend will never, ever vote for that person. And I'm like, same. I wasn't going to vote for them either. All I'm trying to say is that there is magic in being able to gently encourage people to make better choices. And people will not make better choices if they are told that they're bad. Because we become what we are told about ourselves, especially if we don't do any personal growth work. We become that. Okay, this is really important. So when we say this group of people is bad and wrong and horrible, they are probably going to keep doing things that one would argue are bad, wrong, and horrible. They have to hear what you're doing isn't right, and I know that this isn't you. And this is something that people talk about in parenting, with teenagers and older kids. If they do something bad, don't say that they are bad. You want to pull them aside and say, hey, this thing that you did, this isn't like you. I heard about this on Love Island. There was a contestant whose dad called in or parent called in, and they were saying to them, whatever this thing you did is, I didn't watch that show, so I'm not sure what she did, the character on the show, but he was saying to her, that's not like you. Why did you do that? And so sometimes we can look at people and we can say, that doesn't seem like you. Why did you say that? Or why do you do that? Or why do you think that? And when we ask and we lead with curiosity and we ask questions like that and we run things through our hearts and we use nonviolent communication, that's when we really start to make a change. Because the truth is, people who do or say bad things, were brainwashed to do so. And we have to stop looking at them as the enemy and start looking at the systems and the structures and the environments that have planted those seeds of hatred in them that have now gone rampant, okay? Because at the end of the day, like, the whole world could end tomorrow, or our whole government structure could shut down. And what's going to matter is that we, the people, have each other's backs. I hope that all makes sense. Mercury is still retrograde. I'm a Gemini, Sun in Mercury. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you all have a great week. Again, get up off of that thing. I know it starts off more motivational maybe than the rest of the week gets, but we have to keep coming back to our personal sovereignty, our personal power. And you can't let that slide. Okay? The world needs more people in our power. I'm the Astro Mama. Thank you all for watching. If you want to go deeper with me, I do offer personal readings. I do transit readings, birthday readings, business readings, and natal charts. The link to book with me is in the captions below. And if you have been following me for a while and you know my booking link was broken, it is now fixed. I have a new website. Go ahead and check it out. It would be an honor to get to serve you in a more personal way. I'm here every week on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I'd love to see you next week. And I'm sending you so much love and many blessings. Hang in there this week. You got it. And get up off of that thing.